Welcome back to another episode of the ATC250R. So we're going to pick up where I left off. I ended up plating the triple clamp bolts, and I've cleaned up one side. I'm doing one side at a time, but you can see there's quite a difference. Now, I believe that these were plated from the factory. It could have been painted, but actually they may have been painted. They may have been painted on there. So my thought about that is that the plating looks so much better. It'd be much quicker to just paint these, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to plate these and do a before and after. So here's the before. Here's the after. You can see a little hue of the plating, which I really think is cool. It's got like a green, a little bit of a green hue to it. And it just looks flat and beautiful. Spring down in there is all shiny. So there it is. There's the foot pegs. The next thing I'm going to focus on is the rear shock. So I cleaned and polished everything in here. And I mean, I've got everything in here. I've got Windex, I've got lacquer thinner, I've got mothers, I've got chrome polish, I've got Adams, metal 1 and 2. So I was going to take this shock apart, at least the spring out. But I noticed this is factory yellow paint. I am not going to break that. That to me is just, I don't know, it's priceless to me. So anyhow, all I did was I polished this, took about an hour, and I got it to look really, really nice. I polished the metal. So it looks really, really good. The lower arm looks just fantastic. And that brought me to this. This was my biggest concern, this whole reservoir. It was so bad. I mean, look at that. Now I'm lucky I've got the stickers, the decals still on it, so that I can put them right back where they were, which would be really cool. That the placement's going to be perfect. But you can see the discoloration in the bands. So I tried everything. Back to the lacquer thinner first, metal polish, and I just figure, just like my forks, there's no way that the oxidation's coming off. So what I found was I just dripped a little bit of lacquer thinner on a green Scotch-Brite, and look at that. And it actually is giving it the little bit of sanding mark or texture. You can see they're in that from the factory. Look at that. So I'm going to show you this when I'm done cleaning it up. I'm very happy with the outcome. It looks great. Ready to put back in. With the motor clean, I've cleaned it really well, best I could outside in the wash bay. I am set on not painting the bottom end of this. This is all original these have probably never been out. The center case, you know, to get that again, you just won't. You won't get it. You know, even if you pull it apart and find OEM gaskets, yeah, maybe. But no, I'm going to live with the little imperfections, which actually probably don't deter from the bike. It just kind of shows how original it is and really how low-hourred this thing is. I mean, if you look inside here, this thing is just super, super clean. Now, they put this side cover on with gasket material and the O-ring. There's the old O-ring. I've got a new OEM O-ring. I did paint this, so it's going to show well, and you won't believe how nice I'm going to get the bottom end, even though it hasn't been painted. So I'm going to start taping, and then I've already scuffed with the Scotch-Brite everything I can get, every angle I can get. Even that, even though it doesn't look like it, is Scotch-Brited. So all the paint's going to stick, and I'm just going to do the top end. So that's the before. Taped and wiped down with lacquer thinner. And everything covered. And there it is, done. You know, there's a few areas, but I really, really am happy that I left the original paint on the bottom end. So it's going to look really great in there, especially when you look underneath and see that gasket, all those gaskets on the case running along here and running along here. That's all factory original. It's all ready for the motor, so let's give this a try. I'm really trying to not have it go metal to metal. Like that. Well, hopefully the towel took care of that. My hand under here. And there we go. There we go. Gonna put this rear housing together, and we've got the bearings in, but I've finally got these. They took forever. These are the seals that run along here on each side and seal in the housing. So we'll put those on and we'll get that in. It is a lot of work getting that swing arm in there and getting everything lubed to get to this point. The motor is looking fantastic. I'm so glad I did what I did and kept this all original and just touched up the top here. I did paint this cover, but you can hardly tell. We've got some things to do here, and to prep for that, I had to clean and restore this rubber that mounts the exhaust, or the exhaust mounts the rear shock reservoir, and then re-polish all this bright hose clamps so that they're nice and shiny and pretty. With the discs all restored in cloud silver, all this stuff takes so much time, And as you can see, I've got the outside ring. I think that's kind of important so that it glistens, doesn't have rust on it. Of course it wouldn't, but if you were to ride the bike, you know, it wouldn't be long before you'd have the rust showing up. And I didn't go real heavy on the outer ring so that it's not really going to flake or anything. And there we have it. So we're going to have to allow this to dry. I've got the disc on, got the axle in, I've got the rear sprocket on, the seals are in. So now I'm just, there's no way to torque these to the specific torque. So I kind of know how hard that was to take off. And you know, you've got a lock nut. I wouldn't overdo it, especially on a restoration, because hopefully nobody rides this in the mud. So with the back end pretty much there, I am going to show you some missing pieces. There are 3 missing rubber boots. Now I ordered them. You can't get them from Honda anymore, but I ordered them on eBay. And the next thing we're going to do is the rear brake. Now what I do here is I took it to the wash area and I got most of the stuff off, and what I'm doing now is just taking lacquer thinner and I'm cleaning all the remaining dirt off. And it came pretty clean the way it was, but since I already did the rear master earlier, all I got to do is touch it up a little bit. I don't want to disrupt the paint that I painted on it. So I'll clean that. I don't want to put any lacquer thinner on that. But you can get that rubber to look great with some lacquer thinner. You know, like here. And these little O-rings, you get those, slide them back, clean that brake line. You want it looking great, because nothing's worse than a bad looking brake line. So we're going to get that all cleaned up. Now this is not good, so I ordered a new one. So I'm going to put that on them. I don't like the rust on that. I'm going to replace that. And we've got this all plated. And we've got a new rubber. Having done this a few times, you don't want to tighten any of these bolts down until you actually get it right where you want it. And it snakes around. And I keep this bolt down here loose. It brings you up around here. And these 2 holders here, and it goes over the top of the frame. And around here. And these are also loose. I don't have the pin in on the brake lever. Got the new hose clamps, and this tube is all empty, but as long as I don't empty out this master, so I'll tighten these up, I'll get these all lined up, I'll fill this and let it roll down to here, and I should be good. And then I'll probably flush the brakes again, and then we should be good with the rear brake. I also purposely did not mount this so that it wasn't in the way over here, and sure enough, this would have been a problem because it would have been underneath. I believe it goes over. So we've got everything routed. We've got all the bolts in, And what we're going to do is we're going to fill this cup. What I do is I punch a small hole in there so that you can just squirt it in. Okay. And then we have an 8mm on, and then we put the tube on down to, this is called a mini vac. It has made it just wonderful for, you know, taking, instead of having to have someone else push the foot feed and tighten up the bolt and do all that normal stuff. This just works great to flush, and it actually will allow you to bench press or bench bleed the master, so because it just sucks the fluid right out of the reservoir through the whole system. So let's do that. And you want to have a towel ready because you do not want any brake fluid on this beautiful new frame. Just because the camera's in the way, I'll show you. So I'm just filling this cup right to the top. And then step over and give it a little vacuum and open it up, and you can watch that cup just drain out fluid, and that'll put new fluid all through the system and the caliper. So I'll do about 3 cups, and normally you don't want this cup to go dry, but you've got all this as part of the reservoir. If this goes dry down here, then you'll be having issues, and it sometimes takes a little while to fiddle in with the pedal, doing everything that you can think of and standing on your head to get it to actually create foot pedal pressure, because you'll have air in that master. So we'll fill it up again. It's nice to have brand new fluid all through this. I've already done 1 cup. This would be the 3rd cup. And I did this when I rebuilt the rear caliper, I believe. So this should be good. We'll get it down to empty. And then we're going to check for pedal. And I don't have the pin in, so I just put the pin in, and I've got pedal. Got pedal right there. I mean, it's right there. It's maybe 1/2 inch of free play. And so we got great brake, we've got clean fluid, and so let's just tighten all the bolts down and figure we're done with the brake system. And more plating, painting. These are all pieces of the throttle and that double system for the emergency brake and the clutch. And I started to pull the new cables out of their bag, and I lubed the cables, and I'm letting them drain off. Give it a couple hours, get all that oil out of there so it's not all over your fresh build. And this is the rear emergency brake or parking brake cable. And I'll show you the problem I had, which is this says 1983 to 87 or 82 to 85 ATC250R, but in reality it is not the right one. It's not long enough, and this came from Dennis Kirk, and it's not their fault. I mean, it kind of is, it kind of isn't. It's a $15 cable, so it's like not the end of the world, but this will not fit. So I basically lubed, cleaned, and polished everything on the old one. That was in good shape, but I just wanted a new one. Mounted the bars after I painted, and I mounted the coil, and I put new drain line in, so that's going to look nice. And as I was about ready to fix this with its hose clamp, like so, with the rear parking brake cable that comes up through here and it attaches with a band right here, I figured out when the end of it only came out to about here that it wasn't going to reach around over and be able to be hooked up. So we'll figure that out and just move on from there. All right, it's time to put these back together. They're all painted. These are pot metal, so I didn't want to plate these. And I don't believe they were plated from the factory, and taped off everything nice. So let's put these together. And the spring goes in there. Got to get a little bit of lubrication on it. Not a lot, but you just need something so it slides easily, because there's nothing worse than a sticky throttle. So part of the problem with that when it's sticky is that it's not, all the lube's gone inside this thumb throttle, and then the return spring on the carburetor isn't lubed up and it's not moving freely. So just lay this down in here like so, and take off. Gotta lube where it slides, where it rotates, and even doesn't hurt to put a little anywhere where it might rub against or go on. So I'm just going to go ahead and give this a good go over there. And then on top, where anywhere it might meet contact or spin, because when you clean it all, the lube's gone. And we'll put the washer on there, and then we'll put a new cotter pin in. But before we put all that together, we've got to get this cable in there. So put this in, get it lined up, and hopefully the cable works. I mean, in these years, it's like I have more problem getting the correct cables. So once that's in there, I'm going to go ahead and thread this on. There we go. And then I've got to put the spring back on, of course. Get all that started. Pin up. Now we can put in the cotter pin, and I had to basically make one because I don't have anything this thin, but it's going to work just fine. this all tightened up. And I just don't want it hanging up on that little spring there, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. And that works good. The return is positive. And you know, that little spring's not going to give you a lot, but there we go. And now we can go forward and put the lever on. And now that I've got the thumb throttle on there, I am going to make sure I'm going to go lay this on the handlebars, and I'm going to make sure I've got this indexed right. Now it's 4 square, so it's either out here, or out here, so I'm pretty sure I got it right, but I don't want to have to go back into it. And bend over the tab. We should be good to put the top on. And bring out your freshly plated pieces here. And in here are the 2 screws for the top. I think these are right here, these 2 little ones. And there it is. And the top is plastic, so I really couldn't paint that. But everything works really well. If I pull this, there's just no resistance on it. All right, I had to make a fine adjustment here. This plate needed to be bent down a little bit. This was coming and it was hitting the top of this, hanging up. So I had to pull this off, and I just bent it down just ever so slightly, and now it clears the cap. And that's how it's supposed to operate. Free of any interference, even push up on it or down on it. Perfect. And I gotta say, with the plating, the paint, I think that looks just awesome. Very nice. I'm not going to bore you with the rest of these. I'll just put all this together and we'll move on. And there is the parking brake clutch housing. Got the new decal on it. All the new plated hardware. Looking pretty good. Time for grips. Honda OEM grips. They're the same size on either side because it's got a thumb throttle. And you can still get these on Partzilla or Rocky Mountain. And because this is painted, and it's still, you know, even though it's 2 or 3 days dried, it's still not fully cured. So you're going to have to put some lubrication on here. And I use clear, just Rust-Oleum clear. And what I do is just spray it, hold the hole in the bottom, put quite a bit in there, and then I shake it around, roll it, pinch it, dump what's left, and then it just slides on there. There it is. OEM grip. Make sure it's all the way seated. And that will make sure you can get the caps on the end. And I can get these still from Rocky Mountain. There's a shim, a bolt, and then there's a plastic cap. And those just go on the end. And that's the cap. There's the bolt, and it's still got Even today, for some reason, I still have that figure 8 in there. It's got a line under it, but that's OEM. And then you got the little shim in there, like so. And we just put it on there. Thread it in the end of the bar. Tighten it down, and you've got a beautiful OEM look on your handlebar. And I loosely mounted the throttle. This is where all that hard work pays off. That's just super smooth. It's like velvet, and this all looks so nice. It's like brand new. And we'll go to the other side and put on. And I'm doing these loose because I'm not exactly sure where the placement is. We'll get this on. And get it somewhat snug. And this comes out a ways, and so I've got this really loose so I don't scratch up these bars. It comes out about there. And then I reconditioned this. This switch didn't work, but I got in there and I lubricated it. These always have. I looked into a replacement. They're all aftermarket. They don't quite look the same. Chinese stuff. And I got this better than I thought I'd get it, so I'm going to reuse it. So with this in its proper spot, I can bring this back. The idea is that this somewhat lines up with the end of the bar, so when you pull it, your clutch, you got most of your handle there that you're dealing with. And again, I'm not going to tighten these really tight because they will leave marks in the bars with this fresh paint, and I want to make sure that I'm in the right spot before I cinch everything down. So we got the bars done. There's the ends, the grips, parking brake sticker, front disc brake master, and thumb throttle. I've been putting off the front wheel because I thought it would be easier and less chances of scratching things to get the exhaust on. But I'm going to go ahead and do the bearings in the front, so they'll be all brand new. And they're all in. Everything's torqued. Front wheels on. One thing that really, I know it's not much, but it really made the front end look 100% better is the Honda sticker. It's not really a sticker, it's actually a piece of plastic. It's really close to OEM. If not, I don't think anyone could really tell. So with that, I am fitting the front caliper, front disc. Got this all plated. Got these all on and torqued. And all the handlebar stuff is on. And these parts came in. The new intake boot here. And these little rubber vibration dampeners for the head. And what I found, that they were covered with oil from the factory, I guess. The little snubbers, the little vibration snubbers. So I put them on and they didn't want to stick. So I've got to figure out a way to, they're aftermarket. These stick nice. These are, you almost have to take a rubber mallet and pop them in, and they're going to stay. But these other aftermarket, of course, don't fit quite right. So I hand washed all the parts to get them ready for restoration, and I'm starting with the rear tail light. After putting cleaning and putting a new bulb in, everything works properly. And I'm going to use plexus on this lens and put it together and mount it like so. You can see that plexus really makes this thing shine. And I took the cable routing pictures that I took before I pulled it apart. Got the cables coming along here. And they come up. And I went ahead and routed all the cables and mounted all the wiring. So I'm really all the way out of the frame into the headlight area with all the cables. So from there, I'm just cleaning individual parts, and like the chain covers on. But it looks like this is a great time to end this segment. The work involved for all this knick-knack stuff is just time consuming. So I haven't even gotten to like the headlight plastics or the tank, of course. But it is starting to roll along, and other than make this thing unbearably long, we're going to go ahead and end this one. So we are looking good. Got a lot more to do. So tune in on the next segment of the ATC250R.